Today on the Dad the Best I Can show.
When you talk about all the movies he's been in, Trading Places, Nutty Professor and the Clumps, there ain't nothing wrong with Oprah. I've seen Oprah on hard copy with a tall, young, strong man named Stedman.
Hey now! Welcome to the Dad the Best I Can show. My name is Rob Roseman. Who wants to be a millionaire legend? Chicago futures trader, Vegas poker pro. Now I'm a dad to 3 kids, ages 6, 4, and 1. Phew! Wears me out just thinking about it. Each week we're bringing on dads like you to tell us your stories, your tips and tricks to help all of us make it through dad life. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Now let's get on with the show. Today on the Dad the Best I Can show, we're lucky to have one of my best friends, Gregg Gelber. Gregg is a financial advisor. He lives in Miami with his wife and 2 boys, ages 9 and 6. Today we're going to talk to Gregg about what to do when you're really into sports but your kid is not, what Gregg learned about being a dad from his parents. We talk about why Gregg took up painting at age 40 to make time for himself. And a special treat, at the end of the show, we're joined by Gregg's lovely wife, Carolina, to play the Newlywed game and hear what she thinks makes Gregg such a great dad. 2 fun facts about Gregg. He's like a human IMDb when it comes to movies, so don't challenge him to the Kevin Bacon game. And he can juggle. Let's go. What's up, Gregg? How you doing?
Doing well. How are you doing, Reg?
I'm doing well, thanks. Gregg, we've come a long way. Now we're both 41 years old. Our birthdays are 1 day apart. We're both dads now. You've got 2 kids. How old are they?
My kids are 9 and 6, both boys.
Gregg is one of the people I come to for parenting advice because he's been through this stuff already. So good to have you on to ask you some more questions, Gregg.
I'm ready. I always appreciate your questions and looking for guidance from me for some reason. I have no idea why, outside of the fact that I've just been failing longer than you have.
All right, Gregg, out of the gates, I'm going to hit you with some rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
First car you ever owned?
1993 Saturn, made of plastic.
Favorite TV show as a kid?
Different Strokes.
Favorite TV show now?
The Walking Dead.
Favorite 1980s wrestler?
From the Top Rope, Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
In Living Color or Saturday Night Live?
Ooh, shout out to Marvin Clark. Back in the day, it was in Living Color, but I gotta say, Saturday Night Live as we got older.
Favorite Saturday Night Live character?
Will Ferrell, hands down.
Favorite place you've ever traveled to?
I'm gonna go with Buenos Aires.
Favorite drink?
Jack and Coke.
What is the best food that you cook?
I make a mean chicken quesadilla, but like a big meal, I would have to say short ribs.
Where do you get the best sandwich ever?
You know the answer to that.
Oh, yes.
Tell me.
Hungry Bear, honey mustard chicken.
100%.
So I know one thing you've started doing recently that I was surprised to find out is doing art, which totally shocked me. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it shocked me as well. I am a very analytical A-type personality with not much natural artistic ability and have never really in my entire life taken an interest in that. And over the past couple years, this is something new for me. And it started from requests from my children who like painting and drawing. They would just basically say, Daddy, draw Superman. Daddy, can you draw Obi-Wan Kenobi? And I would get into it and start enjoying it and realize that it, provided a little bit of therapy for me. We started going to that place, Color Me Mine, which is a pottery place where you would just paint the pottery and they would fire it up for you and you'd get the piece back a week later. What I started doing after that was going in by myself and just painting. And it would be me and a bunch of 10 to 12-year-old girls at 5 o'clock in the afternoon after a day of work. So it would be, do I go and work out or do I go to Color Me Mine and paint with the young girls?
You must have got some weird looks there, huh?
Yeah, I was definitely the weirdo in the corner painting.
Let's take a quick break to talk about our dad tip of the week for you, brought to you by Kickstart Reading. At Kickstart Reading, you can watch 2-minute videos that teach your kid how to read. This is how I taught my 5-year-old going into kindergarten how to read, And now my 4-year-old in pre-K is learning to read with these videos now too. Best part? 2 minutes. What dad doesn't have time for 2 minutes? Come on, guys. Go to kickstartreading.com and use the code DADTHEBEST to get your first month free. That's kickstartreading.com. We do a dad tip of the week every week on the show, Greg. I think this is a good one for you. Tell us your dad tip of the week.
My dad tip of the week is be selfish. That's it.
Yeah, well, and you can expand a little on that. You got to take time for you, because if you don't do it, nobody else is going to do it for you. And by being a little selfish, I think your wife's going to appreciate it more. Your kids are going to appreciate it. You're going to come back a better dad. And it's so easy to let that slide. So, let's all be a little selfish sometimes. Deal?
Deal. Exactly. It'll make your home life better in all aspects.
Right. You heard that? Any moms listening? Give dad a break and let him out for the night. All right. Speaking of past generations and how they parented differently, what is one thing you learned from your parents? Let's start off with your dad.
One thing I guess inherently learned from my father is organizational skills, and that definitely helps with parenting and scheduling, etc. But one thing that he always said that has really stuck with me is always do what you say you're going to do, which I find, forget parenting, just in life, most people don't do that. And I make it a point, whether it's in business or friendship or parenting, you do what you say you're going to do, and the results are there. And that goes back to, keeping the structure in, the rules of parenting. So I think that holds true.
If you're listening, what's up, Ronnie? Talk about your mom a little bit. One thing you learned from your mom.
So my mom, who passed away when I was 25 years old, as you know, had always a very positive outlook on life. The most upbeat person I've ever met. So that's something I try to emulate. And one thing she always said was, don't sweat the small stuff. So I try to put that attitude on my children and make sure they put things into perspective as far as, small issues like the dog chewing up a toy that we can always buy another one versus, something really bad that might happen. So
she was an awesome lady, and I know she would, what's up, Barbara? And she would be so proud to see what kind of dad you'd become, to your kids. So thanks you for, man. Thanks for sharing that. That's awesome stuff. It's good to talk about her.
Always.
Here's a topic that I talk with Greg a lot about that I imagine a lot of dads are going through, and that is sports and your kids. So we grew up playing sports every day as kids. Greg, we were, basketball fanatics. We'd play Nerf games in your room. We'd play outside, 21, knockout.
We'd play one-on-one and pretend that Larry Bird versus Magic Johnson, keep a whole tournament going.
It was just a huge part of our life. What I've learned from Greg is that just because you're really into sports does not mean your kids are going to be into sports. And Greg, you kind of found that out the hard way, and you didn't take it so well in the beginning. Talk a little bit about what it was like realizing your kids were not going to be as into sports as you were, and how you learned to deal with that.
Yeah, so I just went with the assumption that they would be into sports. Watching, playing, just something I would do with them on a constant basis when I had 2 young boys. And my first, who's now 9, was just never really into it. And I pushed the envelope a little too much. Now, providing exposure to all different sports and fighting their reluctance, I think, is important to a degree, but I pushed it a little far and would push him away. So I learned with my second, who is now 6, where we would give him the proper exposure, but I wouldn't push. And I think he's a little more apt and athletic and coordinated enough to like sports and enjoy it. The problem is he follows older brother, who is not into it. So there's that little conundrum of how much do I push, How much do I stand back and let him figure it out on his own?
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult.
And they're starting younger than ever, so we don't even really know. I mean, when your 5-year-old is not into soccer, which I just learned this season, he's picking grass on the field, and I can't even watch during the game sometimes. Part of it is he might not be into it. Part of it might be that we are just starting them too early.
We also have exposure to what all the other parents are doing through social media and trying to keep up with the Joneses. It's too much. It's unnecessary. We started playing basketball, or at least I started playing basketball in 5th grade. And I remember, going back to PE and being the best one there because no one else had played.
Mm-hmm.
But then I went to play Beth Am with all you guys, and you've been playing since 3rd grade. So it was a different dynamic there. It's just not necessary to do what other parents are doing. Your kids will find their way at the right time, and obviously easier said than done because it drives me nuts knowing that other kids are out there playing different sports every day of the week and mine's not.
Mm-hmm. But you were telling me the other day that you had a breakthrough with your younger son, that when you had some alone time with him.
Oh, it was amazing. So we were outside riding bikes. The 2 boys, me, and actually my father was over after he played basketball on Sunday. We finished riding bikes. My oldest runs in the house, goes right to the iPad as usual. And I expected that out of my 6-year-old Luke, but he didn't. He went into the garage and grabbed a basketball. And I turned out of the corner of my eye and looked at my father, and he had the same look I had. And we're like, all right, let's not fuck this up. Let's play it cool and see what he wants to do, because we didn't want to seem too eager and scare him away.
Right.
So he grabbed the ball. It happened to be flat, so I'm like giving hand signals to my father to go
Get the pump.
occupy his time. Exactly. I ran, got the pump, got the ball, moved it over to his hand. He took a couple shots, took a couple dribbles, and he was done. And great, successful day. But what happened next, which I didn't anticipate, is he went into the box of athletic gear and grabbed the ball. And he said, "Let's have a catch." And my eyes were just wide open, and my mind was blown at this point. So this had never happened before. Mm-hmm. So I grabbed the ball, started throwing it back and forth with him. Fantastic. Having a great time. It was only a couple minutes, but I'll take it. But then he goes back into the box and grabs the baseball bat. And by this time, my dad had given up. He thought it was ending and went to the house. We went out and hit the ball for 15 minutes. It was the most amazing connection I've had with Luke in his entire life with respect to sports. And I don't know if it was just the fact that he wanted to please me, which I'll take, or he was making a breakthrough because I wasn't pushing it. Who knows?
All right, more rapid fire questions, Greg. We're talking movies. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Favorite movie ever? This question is always tricky, so I'm going to say the category is drama.
Good Will Hunting.
Favorite comedy movie ever?
Coming to America.
Coming to America. Yeah. So good. Such a great one. Favorite comedian ever?
Well, it's got to be Eddie Murphy. I mean, the 2 stand-ups were fantastic, Raw and Delirious, but you talk about all the movies he's been in, Trading Places, Nutty Professor and the Clumps. There ain't nothing wrong with Oprah. I've seen Oprah on hard copy with a tall, young, strong man named Stedman. She my favorite of all of them. Janet Jones, Marilyn Keegan, Maury Povich, Letterman, Leno, Montel, Ricky Lake. I like Geraldo. Mike Douglas. Ooh, Mike Douglas. You know, Mike Douglas used to make me mush when I watch it. I admit it. First white man ever make me Mike Douglas. He make me mush.
So, Greg, I know one of your favorite activities to do with your wife is game show night. So we've got a special treat for you. We are joined by Carolina, your wife, and we are going to play the Newlywed game.
Oh, my God.
Carolina,
right, here we go.
Say hi.
Hi, guys. Hi, honey.
Hey. I'm a little scared, but let's go.
What a treat. Let's get right into it. All right, we're going to start easy since I'm still trying to figure out how this game works.
God, I'm very nervous suddenly. Okay, go.
Okay, Greg, we asked your wife of how many years?
14.
How many years, Greg?
14.
Wow.
Final answer.
You guys are not newlyweds, but we'll let it slide. We asked your wife, Carolina, before the show to write down her answers to these questions. What is Carolina's favorite food? Greg, what's your answer?
Chocolate.
Carolina, what did you say?
I I do love chocolate, but see, I thought that was like a candy. So I actually, when you said food, I thought of pasta.
All right, Greg.
We've been together for 17 years. It's a miracle I remember.
Oh my God, I didn't know it was that long. You guys sound old. Greg, we asked Carolina, what does she claim is her favorite movie?
That would have to be Shakespeare in Love.
Carolina, what did you say?
I said Shakespeare in Love. Really good.
There you go.
All right.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yay.
Up. One of Greg's favorite shows is Friends. We have to ask the follow-up question. What is Carolina's actual favorite movie?
Love that Friends episode. Her actual favorite movie is Never Been Kissed.
Oh my God, how did you know that?
TBS
I wrote
plays
it
it
down.
over and over.
Oh my God, he got it right. Never Been Kissed, Drew Barrymore. If you haven't seen it, watch it.
What,
Babe,
Greg?
I'm really sorry, Reg. I'm really impressed. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Greg, next question. Who will your wife say is on her freebie list? If you don't know what a freebie list is, Greg, you're going to learn. Her freebie list is 3 people that she can sleep with without anyone getting upset. Greg, who are these 3 people on her list?
AKA the laminated list. Let's see.
We like to call it the laminated card.
Because you guys like laminating?
Well, it's just, you have to make it official. Like, you can't keep changing it. So once you laminate something, if you grew up in the 90s, that's it. You're done. It's cooked.
I've seen, you guys have a laminating machine too, don't you?
Probably.
Also from a Friends episode.
Our entire relationship is based on a Friends episode.
All right, Greg. Who are the 3?
Okay. I can think of 2. I'm going to go with the first one, just tried and true, Brad Pitt, because I can't think of a third one. Then definitely Jake Gyllenhaal. And then the other one has got to be our realtor, David.
Whoa, that just got real.
That is not true.
British guy. I think he might be on my list, actually.
Oh my God. He's really good looking and
very
British.
charming.
Carolina, let's hear it. Who were your answers?
Okay, good job. Number 1, Brad Pitt, so that matched up. Still looking good, even though I just recently learned he's 54 years old, which kind of creeps me out, but he looks great. Number 2, no, not Jake Gyllenhaal. Actually, my number 2 spot now is John Hamm. Obvious and not so obvious reasons, I'd have to say. And number 3 was Jake Gyllenhaal, not our realtor. Thank God.
So 2 out of 3, not bad.
Nice.
Not bad.
Nice.
Good job, Greg. Maybe you'll make it on the list one day.
Yeah, it's celebrities though, right? The gist of it is like if you run into if any time you run into a celebrity, you have a free pass. I think.
Right. Not like the guy down the street.
Not the realtor, which would be awful.
Yeah. The reason why I answered the realtor is so we would dispute it, and so he'll never be on it. So.
You wanted to
well played, Greg. Well played.
You needed it recorded?
Yeah, there you go.
Got it.
Before we leave, this whole show is about dads. Greg is one of our favorites. So will you tell us one quality that makes Greg a great dad?
Aw. It's not just one quality, I'd have to say. So many things come to mind. This is really corny, but it's really hard to pinpoint just one thing. I'm going to give you a dual answer. I'm going to say his unconditional love and support for our boys, and just seeing him throw himself into new situations or interests for our boys, because it's something the boys love. My husband hates Legos, but our youngest is obsessed with Legos. And so my husband, much to his chagrin, will sit there and build these ridiculous, stupid Lego sets for our beautiful 6-year-old because
Thanks,
he
babe.
wants to just be involved. And so I think that's really sweet. I think that's something new from our parents' generation or generations past, where I don't think the dads were as hands-on, and they certainly, I don't think, jumped into new territory. Just seeing him grow as a person. I didn't expect that part. I knew when I married him or when I fell in love with him that he was going to be a great partner and a great father for our children in that vague sense of a way. But watching him just sort of grow into this, I already thought he was pretty amazing, but just seeing him grow into such a wonderful father for our kids is amazing. And I'm just so happy that our kids have him.
Quite an answer. I'm glad it was recorded.
Yeah, my goal.
Jeez.
That's great. My new goal in the show is to try and get you to cry. I think I almost got you there.
There may or may not be moist tear ducts here. So, but
Nice.
yes, thanks. I don't know
Well-
that anyone's ever asked that question, so I think that's so sweet. I don't think that fatherhood gets nearly as much of attention or discussion, it's just not talked about. A slight percentage of how motherhood is sort of constantly dissected. So I think it's great. I think it's wonderful.
Well, thanks, Carolina.
Thanks, Reg.
Thanks, babe. I love you.
Oh, you see, you had to throw that out because I just gave an amazing answer. I love you too.
All right, Greg. Well, thanks for being on the show, and we will talk soon.
The pleasure was all mine, Reg. I appreciate you. I appreciate you doing this podcast for dads out there everywhere, showing that they are not alone. And thanks for having me on.
All right. See ya.
All right. Later, bud.
Thank you guys for listening to the Dad the Best I Can show. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. Actually, 5 stars. We could do better than that. Brooks? Infinity stars. Cameron? How many stars?
Infinity 1,000.
Infinity 1,000. You got to one-up them in this household. Thanks. See ya.